It was the middle of the night when Amelia heard it. The tiniest, faintest sound. A soft, desperate squeak, barely audible over the rustling leaves outside. At first, she thought she had imagined it. Just another sound carried by the wind. But then, she heard it again. Something was out there. Grabbing a flashlight, she stepped out onto the damp grass, scanning the yard. Her heart pounded, a mixture of curiosity and worry, because deep down, she already knew. This wasn't just a passing animal. Something needed help. Right there beneath the old oak tree, she saw him. He was so small, barely more than a handful of feathers, his tiny body trembling in the cold night air. His wide golden eyes locked onto hers, filled with something that was both fear and trust, all at once. He didn't move, didn't try to fly away. He just sat there, helpless. A baby owl. She knelt down, carefully scooping him into her hands. He was weightless, fragile, and she could feel his tiny heartbeat racing. Looking up at the tree, she searched for any sign of his mother, his nest, anything. But there was nothing. No movement, no reassuring presence of a protective parent watching from the shadows. He was alone. Completely alone. She didn't know what to do. Her mind raced with questions. Should she leave him and hope his mother came back? Should she try to put him in a safer place? Or should she step in and take responsibility for this tiny life that fate had placed in her hands? Carrying him inside, she wrapped him in a soft towel, trying to give him warmth. He barely moved, exhausted from whatever had happened to him before she found him. She whispered to him, promising she would figure this out. At the time, she didn't know much about owls. She had never cared for one, never imagined she'd be raising a wild bird. But something deep inside told her she couldn't just leave him. That's when she named him Gregory. From that moment on, her world changed. Every day became a lesson in patience, in love, in understanding a creature so different from anything she had ever known. She spent hours researching, reaching out to wildlife experts, watching videos, reading everything she could about how to properly care for a baby owl. She learned that baby owls rely on their parents to teach them how to fly, how to hunt, how to survive. Without a mother, Gregory had no one to show him the way. So she decided she would do what any mother would: teach him herself. His first flying lessons were clumsy. He would spread his little wings, flapping furiously, only to land with an awkward stumble. But every time he tried, she cheered him on. "Come on, Gregory, you can do it." And soon enough, he started getting stronger. His wings grew powerful, his movements more confident. Before she knew it, he was taking short flights across the room, doing his own little happy dance whenever he landed successfully. She never expected to bond so deeply with a bird. But Gregory wasn't just any bird. He had a personality, a presence, a way of making himself part of her world. He became her shadow, perching on her shoulder, watching her every move. When she made her morning coffee, he was there, tilting his head as if to inspect her technique. When she sat down to read, he nestled beside her, his soft feathers brushing against her arm. And then there was Kishka, Amelia's ever-curious, slightly skeptical cat. At first, Kishka was not thrilled about this new, feathery addition to the household. She would watch Gregory with narrowed eyes, tail twitching, as if trying to decide whether he was a friend, a foe, or just some bizarre new plaything. But over time, something incredible happened. They became friends. Kishka and Gregory developed an unspoken understanding, a delicate balance of respect. Gregory would flutter onto the couch beside Kishka, and she would give him a slow, approving blink, the cat equivalent of a nod. And in the rare moments when Gregory was particularly bold, hopping right up to Kishka with playful curiosity, she would simply sigh and tolerate it, as if saying, "Fine, you can stay." What Amelia didn't realize at first was that Gregory wasn't just an orphaned owl. He was the only survivor of his family. His home had been a towering tree near her house, a place where an entire family of owls had lived, thrived, and called home. But then, the hurricane came. The storm tore through the land, bending trees, breaking branches, destroying nests. And when it was over, when the winds had settled and the world was quiet again, only Gregory remained. She thought about that often. How easily his story could have ended that night. How, if she hadn't heard his tiny cries, if she hadn't stepped outside, if she had ignored the pull in her heart telling her to look for him, he wouldn't be here. There were people who told her she shouldn't intervene. He's a wild animal, they said. You can't raise an owl. But how do you turn away from something so small, so helpless? How do you ignore a life that's asking for a second chance? So, she did what she felt was right. She stepped in. She fed him, nurtured him, gave him the love and care he needed to grow. She watched as his tiny squeaks grew louder, as his instincts sharpened, as his wings became strong enough to take him higher, farther. Then came the day she knew was inevitable. The day he took flight. At first, it was just short bursts, hopping from branch to branch in the garden, testing his wings, feeling the wind beneath him. But then, one evening, as the sky turned golden with the setting sun, he spread his wings and soared. Higher than ever before, further than she had ever seen him go. She held her breath, watching as he disappeared beyond the trees. And just like that, he was free. But Gregory never really left. He spends his days out in the wild, exactly where he belongs, but he always comes back. Sometimes in the mornings, perched on the fence, watching as she makes her coffee, waiting for a familiar voice to greet him. Sometimes in the afternoons, swooping down to rest in the garden, letting the sunlight warm his feathers. And sometimes at night, when the world is quiet, he returns to his little spot. Safe, warm, home. Did you know that owls actually sleep on their bellies? Amelia didn't. Until she saw Gregory do it for the first time. His tiny body sprawled out, completely trusting, completely at peace. Even though he's independent now, she likes to believe he still sees her as part of his flock. And maybe, in some way, she always will be. Having an owl as a friend, as a part of her life, has been one of the most beautiful, unexpected gifts. It's taught her about resilience, about love that transcends species, about how sometimes the creatures we rescue end up rescuing us right back. If you ever find yourself in a situation like this, if you come across an animal in need, please do your research. Reach out to professionals. Learn what it truly means to care for a wild creature. Because every life deserves a chance to thrive. Gregory had his second chance. And because of that, Amelia's life has been forever changed.